That's a lot of facts that was just presented, which tells me we've spent thousands and thousands of dollars and man-hours in public records requests since you guys have taken office. These are taxpayer dollars wasted because somebody's pissed off that their trustees and their administrator got removed and quit. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. And quite frankly, and I have checked with an attorney, and I can say this, only a piece of shit would do something like that. Quite frankly, that's what you are, Mr. Hicks.
Mr. Thomas, please.
I've checked
Drop the
on this.
hostilities.
It's public comment. This has got to stop. And the misinformation, claiming you guys have misinformed, he goes back with his keyboard warriors on Facebook, dogs you guys, puts all kinds of manipulated facts on there. This baby box cost the township $10,000. One-time fee. $200 a year renewal. We did a video on this. We interviewed Monica Kelsey, and we put the facts out there so that the people can watch. It's not $90,000. He's taken Ron Campbell's numbers, a general number, and he's turned that into this is what it's cost the township. It's not what it's cost the township. And you all know that. The sad part is it's become nothing but politics for Mr. Hicks because he, and I want the public to know this, he's just simply pissed off that his trustees have been removed. His little backroom deals that he had with Ken Geis have stopped. And that's what this is all about. Historically, I never saw Mr. Hicks at the podium dogging the trustees until Mr. Logue took office. Then all of a sudden, Mr. Hicks is having problems. Now the three of you here, and everything's gone to hell. A newsletter that was a waste of time. The last letter was a grope of Ken Geis and all the great things he did in this township. The letter was a waste of time. You had every right to abolish the letter, especially the person writing it is extremely biased and sits on his page all the time. So, again, manipulated facts, making you guys look bad that you terminated a letter. No, you terminated a letter because it was a waste of taxpayer resources. And so are these records requests. I mean, it's unbelievable. I don't understand how one person can request so many records in a small township and cost all of you so much time. It's sickening. So there is no answer other than I can request the trustees. I hope you guys put a time limit on public speaking. As somebody that I believe that people should be able to speak, no one should be able to sit at this podium and take 20 minutes to rant and rave about their lunacy and bring what their keyboard warrior, Hillary Clinton loving, worshiping communists, that they come up here and want to just take the podium over. So please invoke some sort of rule that shuts him the hell up so we don't have to listen to him anymore. I would really...
I provided a copy to you guys of what I'm going to cover or read. I'm going to try to stick to it, but it's kind of a draft, just so you can maybe follow along, see what comments I make, because I think this is actually important stuff. Not just stuff to be smirking and so forth, and that you don't like what I say. I know you might not like what I say, but I think it's important stuff, and I think it can be informative to you guys, it can be informative to our township, and it hopefully can be informative to the state of Ohio and other states. So let me begin. Senator Rand Paul is known for telling us that government is the #1 spreader of misinformation. Misinformation was spread by you at your last meeting, and I want to correct the record on 2 topics. One's kind of a nit, but I want to hit at it. It's the concert series. You guys spent the better part of 15 minutes discussing Leroy Ellington Productions booking and paying for 7 acts over the summer for $9,500 total, an average cost of $1,357. But you failed to note that Billy Rock Band, booked by you, not Leroy Ellington, was $2,000, or about 50% more than when a private sector booking agent was involved. You decried the value for the attendance, but failed to mention that you killed a major part of public promotion of the concert series. You killed the distribution of an already produced spring newsletter that had a 1/2-page schedule of the concert series. The citizens never got that newsletter. Then you're up there decrying attendance at the concert series. While you are all over fiscal responsibility over $9,500 in Leroy Ellington for concerts, you hid $9,999.60 spent with the Nature Center for memberships and had no discussion of competitive bidding on the hiring of Brody Conover as law director at 50% more than your own approved rate for a law director that you made like 3 months before you hired him. You also kept Larry Barbier on at the same time. Further, you guys ran on a platform of uber citizen engagement and fiscal responsibility. When you have discussions like that on the concert series, why don't you invite citizen input? Better yet, why don't you go back to 2 meetings a month and make one a work session where citizen input can be more fluid? Second thing I wanted to correct the record on is the cost of the baby box. On June 14th, 2022, Monica Kelsey of Safe Haven Baby Box said, standing here, and I quote, "Safe Haven Baby Box is willing to pay for someone to be at that box 24 hours a day in the fire station," end quote. On July 6th, I asked Fiscal Officer Ron Campbell in an email, and I quote, "If she," referring to Monica Kelsey, "were to ask for a bill, what would be the full cost per day you would quote inclusive of salary and benefits?" The answer I got from Fiscal Officer Campbell, on which Chief Dimeling was involved in this string of emails, was $722.88 per day, twice that rate on holidays. That's now over $90,000 total. At the time of your last meeting on September 13th, the total was about $70,000. But Chief Dimeling stated at a time in the meeting where I could not respond, that my claim of $70,000 in cost was not correct. He said, and I quote, "No, that is not correct. So the statement was about the staffing, to put 24-hour staffing, that the dollar amount would be about $70,000. It's actually just over like $1,504 and some change," end quote. That answer was incomplete and deceptive about what Ms. Kelsey had offered and what I had stated. Station 50 is allocated 2 firemen, not 3. A 3rd fireman has been relocated to that station and taken from other work to sit there. Dimeling acted like there had been no cost because a fireman on light duty filled the need. After the meeting, I asked Chief Dimeling what work was not being done because of the reassignment. He would not answer. On my own, I found that typical light duty work is important stuff, like business safety inspections, which are supposed to happen annually. Per your own annual reports, in 2019, you did 1,989 such inspections. In 2020, due to COVID, per your report, you did only 198. In 2021, in your annual report, you omitted a number, but said you were responsible for 1,600 commercial occupancies. If, instead of sitting at the baby box, that resource did just 4 business inspections every 24 hours, that would mean 500 inspections missed so far. So I stand by the truth. Station 50 was never budgeted to have 3 firemen there. It does. That costs $722.88 per day per your own fiscal officer at Station 50, and that was never planned or budgeted to be spent there. But Ms. Kelsey stood here and pledged to pay for staffing. I read the quote. Why are you covering for her? Why are our safety services being politicized? She has been a terrible partner. She has misinformed and fought the law and common sense on staffing, logging, building permits, inclusion of ODJFS materials, and on and on. I was right about everything I said on June 14th. But I can show the folly of Chief Dimeling's answer another way. You guys desperately want the law changed.
Mr. Hicks,
To not require a person
Mr.
to be
Hicks.
present.
please just address the comments towards us. I don't want to hear hostility towards our staff. Thank you.
But I can show the folly of Chief Dimeling's answer another way. You guys desperately want the law changed to not require a person to be present at a baby box to render immediate aid to a newborn. If the extra staffing is actually costing nothing, why do you so desperately want the staffing law changed? You want it changed because the truth is that the costs are significant and ongoing. To the degree we have these boxes for unwanted babies, they should be at hospitals where staff are present for immediate aid. If we have one in Union Township, it should be where immediate aid would be available, like the police station. Apart from correcting the record from last month, I want to provide some additional baby box information that I think you guys could find helpful if you want to pay attention to it. First is on baby box training. The fire department provided me with video of the training done by Safe Haven Baby Box. In the training, Monica Kelsey encouraged firemen to ignore if a baby was clearly over 30 days old and not engage police, which they are obligated to do by law. So she also falsely claimed that any person, not just a parent, could put a baby in a box. That's completely wrong. Embarrassingly, not one fireman seemed to know the Ohio law. Most interesting of all, she claimed that dumpster babies are not safe by her boxes. That is opposite of her marketing. The marketing says, buy these boxes or babies end up in dumpsters. In the training, she claimed that the abandonment cases the box might address are when a baby is abandoned, but with the intent by the parent that they be found, such as when they are left in a cardboard box in front of a fire station. That caused me to survey police and fire agencies all across Clermont County, including our own, as to whether they each had a policy in place for traditional safe haven
Mr. Hicks,
that has existed since 2001 in Ohio.
is everything written here that you're presenting? Is that word for word that you're reading? Is there anything off script that you're wanting to say? 'Cause we've
Why
got
are you
this as
asking
written
this
record.
question, Mr. Logue?
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to continue to go through my remarks. I provided a
Is
copy
it
to you
the
as a
scripted
courtesy.
copy?
I've provided a copy to you as a courtesy, as I stated at the beginning. The animosity you have towards accepting information from people that you don't agree with or don't want to agree with is not the way you should be.
Mr. Hicks,
So let me
this staff has provided you all the records and information that you want via special records request. Our staff and our board have heard you. We will dedicate adequate resources to it to address any concerns. We're working with the Ohio Department of Health and the appropriate authorities to have clear guidance. I'm just seeking if there's anything further that's not off script for you, it'd be appropriate to yield your time back to the
No,
agenda.
I'm
so
going
we
to
can
finish
continue
reading
moving
the
forward.
remarks that I provided,
Very
and I
well.
would appreciate not being constantly interrupted. Perhaps you should listen. Perhaps you should try to learn something.
Please maintain the hostility. Okay, thank
You're
you.
the one that's, so you interrupt me and then claim I'm the one being hostile to you.
I have a meeting,
Okay.
I have a meeting to run,
So
Mr.
that
Hicks. I'm just trying to keep us
I'm
on
gonna pick
task
up
and
where
not
I
have
think I
staff
left
or
off.
anyone attacked. Thank you.
Well, I was talking about agencies in Clermont County. So
Okay.
that caused me to survey police and fire agencies in Clermont County as to whether each had a policy in place for traditional safe haven that has existed since 2001 in Ohio, and if they had any instructional signage on their stations. I surveyed 27 agencies. Of 24 that responded, only half even had a policy in place. None had any informational signage. By the way, 2 had in their policy that they were supposed to have informational signage.
And Mr. Hicks, you provided this information to
By
our
the
staff,
way,
correct?
our own township did not produce a policy for traditional safe haven in place at all stations, including at Fire Station 50 for a person-to-person safe haven surrender. It all reinforces that information is the issue. Hijacking, photo ops, and monetizing safe haven is not the answer. You guys claim to be conservatives. Can you admit that standard policies and informational signage across the whole county would be more effective, cost far less, and free financial resources for other uses to help moms and babies? For months now, I have offered to pay for informational signs on our stations in Union Township. Why aren't they already there? Would you rather a baby die than accept an offer from Chris Hicks? The second point I wanted to cover as an update on baby boxes is about alarm systems. Safe Haven Baby Box in use seem to want unattended boxes for unwanted babies to be okay in Ohio. If so, you need to be aware of BST and G Fire, a box in Ohio that has had long-term issues and that points up that the alarms on these boxes are not standardized, have no communications redundancy such as cellular, and many do not have any battery backup. That is all not engineered into the base appliance. That also has not been safety tested despite Safe Haven Baby Box's claims. None of these boxes in Ohio have ever been used. Over 90% across the country have never been used. So maybe sloppy electronics won't be detected until a baby dies in a box. That should be unacceptable to all of us. The third out of 4 things I want to update on baby boxes is unmanned baby boxes in Indiana. Safe Haven Baby Box claims that the boxes are safe for unmanned use. They claim that Indiana has it right. I started to dig in Indiana and found that Safe Haven Baby Box seems to be breaking the law there too. Their law also seems to require a person be present in professional fire stations, but does have a clause for unattended stations that are volunteer. This is what the Indiana law requires for such boxes. The box needs to meet these criteria, and I'm quoting directly from Indiana law. Is located within 1 mile of a hospital, police station, or emergency medical services station that is staffed on a 24-hour per day, 7-day-a-week basis with full-time personnel who hold valid cardiopulmonary resuscitation certification and that meets the minimum response time established by the county not to exceed 4 minutes. In Indiana, counties have to have a response time standard for these things. Are you guys going to ask for that in Ohio law? Can you commit to 4-minute response time here? How are you going to prove that? And the fourth and final thing that I want to update on is the orange bag. Prior to me, the material Safe Haven Baby Box put in the baby box had never been reviewed by you and were inaccessible until after a woman made a surrender decision. The box, I remind you again, has no signage offering conventional Safe Haven or saying anything like knock on the door, ring the bell if you want personal assistance. I pushed for inclusion of proper materials, not just Safe Haven Baby Box promotional items, and for information to be available to parents to review before a surrender decision. I also pointed out that materials in the bassinet violated Ohio law that requires no debris. I was literally laughed at by Ms. Kelsey, and you tried to get AG Yost to side with her. Turns out I was morally, ethically, and legally right. You now keep the information bags outside the box so that someone can take a copy and review prior to making a surrender decision. I wanted to see what is in the bag, so I took one to check. Here it is. I took it out of a box that said take one. Okay? Now, I want to show you what's in this bag. And I want you guys to see what's in this bag. Hopefully you've all checked. Hopefully you all took one so that you could check what's in there. There's a set of stuff that was in there before, and there's some new stuff. What's in there that was in there originally? The private baby registry for Safe Haven baby boxes that I believe violates the law. I don't think that the disclosure of confidential information to Safe Haven baby boxes through this form that is I think, illegal. Why don't you ask the AG for an opinion on that, like you asked for an opinion on not having to include ODJFS paperwork and forms? There's a brief medical thing that has 6 questions that I don't think has ever been reviewed by a doctor. It has been changed and updated because the original version here told women in Union Township to go to Fort Wayne, Indiana for medical services if they had an issue.
Mr. Hicks, we have heard those comments from you. Does that conclude your comments this evening?
The other thing that's in the
Mr.
box
Hicks.
is still the brochures. And now what are the new things in the box? The new things in the box that weren't there.
Mr. Hicks, we're
First thing I
16
want to point
minutes
out
in
is
and
a
we have
pen.
heard these comments. Our staff is
I don't
reviewing.
think
We're
you've heard these
adequately
comments. It's the
addressing
first
your
time I've talked
concerns.
about new things in the box.
We have. You have presented
Okay.
on this before.
So a pen is in the box. That was not provided originally. There's a new brochure on the law that's included in the box that was not there originally. There is the state mandated form on safe haven surrenders that was not in the box originally. There is a piece of paperwork on the Help Me Grow program, including regional contacts for the Help Me Grow state program to help women in need. Again, not provided originally in the box. There is the state mandated confidential voluntary health history form that is now included in the box that was not, and also a cover sheet that you guys put together on it to describe what you're supposed to do with it and where you're supposed to send it when you get done with it. And finally, and this wasn't my idea, I think it's a great idea, by the way, there's an envelope in the box that's addressed to be able to return these forms. Because there was nothing in there before. There weren't the forms in there before, but there wasn't, what exactly do you do with these? So now there's an envelope in the box. I think that is improvement. I think that's improvement. I think now if we get rid of things like a private company's baby registry that they use for promotional purposes, then we'll be making additional improvements. But I thought people might be interested, I know I was interested to see what's actually in there now. Because it's way different than what was in there when this box was launched in Union Township. And it's way different from the attitude that you took of not including some of those things. So in closing, I want to thank you. Now, if you take issue with something I have said, okay, or you want a clarification from me, please ask me now while I'm standing here, while I have a chance to respond. Don't wait until I sit back down and then start talking and spreading misinformation about what I've just said. I stand by every word I say. I research things inside and out, on cost, on rules, on laws. And I want to say that it is wrong when you have citizens come up here, when you guys ran on a platform of uber citizen participation, that you don't engage them here, and then when they sit back down, then you make snide comments, you question what they said, you accuse them of being wrong.
Mr. Hicks, the hostility towards the board and the staff
So-
is not appropriate for this venue. We appreciate
This is America, Mr. Logue.
We appreciate your
This is
opinions.
America, Mr.
We
Logue.
appreciate it. This is your time to speak.
I just want to remind you
I just don't want
something.
attacks at the staff and the board.
I want to remind you of something. You may not be aware of the Constitution,
Mr.
but the
Hicks, we have-
First Amendment gives us the right to do what? Redress grievances to our government. Why? Because people like you don't like it when citizens get up and give you grievances. You say you're not allowed to give a grievance. I have given some grievances here, but I have given you some very helpful information that might help make this a better program, not just here, but in the state of Ohio.
Mr.
And I would
Hicks.
love it someday, Mr. Logue, if you would change your attitude and that your respect for citizens would be for all citizens, not just the citizens you like. So I want to thank you guys for the chance to speak, and hopefully some of the information, obviously Mr. Logue's not going to take it to heart, but Mr. Dills and Mr. Becker, I hope you'll review it. Ms. Ayers on these signs, I'm ready to pay for the signs, and Mr. Dimling on some of the things that I talk about. I thank you for the improvements that you've made in the box, and I think there's just a little bit to go, and we really have gotten there for Union Township, and we can have a more positive approach to how we can make this better for the state of Ohio and for Clermont County and for our country. Thank you, guys.